Good morning.
Did you get
Good
mic'd
evening.
up?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
Dr. Longmire-Avital, Buffy Longmire-Avital. I'm the Associate Dean for Academics.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
Thank you
to
for
meet
having
you.
me.
No, this is fantastic. This is really, really great. I'm involved in some other projects where people are talking about artificial intelligence and bias. That's not my background at all.
Yeah.
I just happen to be
Yeah.
somewhat in the loop
Yeah.
of this conversation
Yeah.
and how to kind of change some of these algorithms
Yep.
and approaches. Yeah, so it's really, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. My background's in psychology, not
Yep.
clinical, but health,
Yeah.
and social. So a little bit, I did the other side of kind
Yeah.
of like implicit bias work.
Yeah.
And from the health perspective, even things like your Apple Watch or Fitbit, all of those things are
Yeah.
normed against a particular
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
individual, a
Yeah.
group of individuals,
Yeah.
and it doesn't project
Mhm.
accurate data.
Mhm.
So a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
So,
So I have a mentor. I'll say it real quick. He's at Brown, and he leads a lab there where they're essentially trying to debunk this, or at least counteract a lot of the things that the tech industry wants to push. But how do we, do that
yeah,
from an academic standpoint? So lots of conversations.
yeah,
Maybe I'll send you his.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's really it's very, we rely on it so heavily,
Yeah.
but the fact is that we're learning our biases,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's that embedded and baked in
Mhm.
to our society, and I don't think people recognize
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much of a default
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I mean, now social psych is dealing with the fact that a lot of our implicit bias tests were not as accurate as we thought.
Mhm.
It's a little bit of a shocker there, but
Mhm.
not really.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, just this is when we're thinking about this younger generation that's coming
Exactly.
through, that this becomes the third person, I kind of say, in the room here.
Yeah.
If it's not able to check your biases, it's just playing off of them, amplifying them,
It makes
then
things worse. A lot
exactly,
worse at scale.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
So.
exactly, without anyone actually noticing that
Exactly.
it is they
Yeah.
are being
Yeah.
very much pushed into a
Yeah.
box
It's
and
nudges.
fed
It's nudges. Yeah.
certain information. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find it the use of AI and therapy
Mhm.
and the notion that individuals really don't
Thank you. We'll do hugs, of course. Good evening. I'm going to test the lavalier. Can you guys hear me? Okay, that's good. Use this. Use this. Okay, all right. We'll use this. How's everyone doing? Yeah. You guys are here like at 6:30 in the evening, so thank you for coming. I know you could probably be doing better things right now, but I appreciate everyone coming to hear this talk. I think I would like to start with first some thanks. Thank you, Julia, for that warm introduction. And I'm going to be very honest. Sometimes when I hear the bio, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't sound like it's me. So no matter how old you get, imposter syndrome is still very real. No matter how much your resume looks good, sometimes it doesn't feel real. So thank you guys for having me and for coming to hear me talk, and also help me feel like I've done something important in the world. I'd also like to thank just the Honors College for the invitation to come and speak to you all this evening. I'd also like to thank my boss, Vice Chancellor Jamie Lathan, who suggested that I actually do this talk. Fun fact, he was my high school history teacher, and now turned my boss at the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which was where I went for high school. I'd also like to thank the entire NTSM Connect family, so Dr. Camila, just everyone that really supports me as an educator as I started my teaching career. They've been probably the most supportive group of people that I could have as an early career teacher. So many thanks to them. And I also want to thank my wife, who's in the building. So please, everyone, give her a warm round of applause. I just want to say that her schedule is a lot busier than mine, actually. So for her to be here means a lot. So I appreciate you driving here in the rain. Yeah, so thanks for everything that you do. And I think there are some folks watching online as well. So I'd like to thank any friends and families that are watching online. Thank you all again just for having me. All right, we're gonna get into it because I know our time is short. But before I talk a little bit more about myself, I kind of want to know who's in the room. So we can just yell this out. How many are everyone undergrads? So like raise your hand if you're undergrads. Okay, so basically everyone. Any grad students in here? Okay, we got like 2 or 3 in the back. 4, 5. All right. Thank you guys for coming too. And then what are people thinking about doing? I heard for the Honors College that they're across all disciplines. You can yell out your majors or you're proud. What do y'all want to do when you grow up? Say loud. I can't hear. Astronaut in the back. Okay. I like that. Say it again. CEO, I like that too. What did you say? Honors accounting. Okay. Was that what you said? Okay, say it one more time. Audit. Okay, thank you. In the back? Research biology. Okay. Any others? Yeah. Attorney. Okay. All right. What else? I'm just trying to get a feel for it. Environmental consulting. All right. Very cool. Very cool. And then how many people are upperclassmen? So your junior, senior year? Okay. All right. Junior, senior years. Okay. And then almost everyone else is a freshman. Raise your hand if you're a freshman. Okay. All right. Good number of freshmen. And then sophomores? Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. It helps me to know how I can tailor this talk. All right, so let's get started. All right, hopefully you can all see that. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. So thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourself. I'll go very quickly and talk about myself, and then we'll get to the keynote or the lesson part of this. It's really gonna be a conversation. And we only have about 30 minutes, so there's not a lot that we're gonna get through right now, but my hope is that maybe this will be the start of something that when you guys leave here, you can think about, you can maybe watch a documentary about, or kind of do some more research into, or start just a conversation about actually what are all these things that we are surrounded about and inundated with in this world of AI. Okay? All right, I think we did this. I'm gonna go to the next one. So real brief about me. Thank you, Julia. She did a great job with the intro. I am a physician, scientist, and I'm also an informaticist. So what that means is that I went to medical school, and I also did research. So I'm actually a scientist first. In undergrad, I did chemistry, and then I did biochemistry. I went to undergrad at Duke. And then worked for about 2 years in the pharmaceutical company. So I was like one of those nerds that like to pipette and do all that fun stuff. I really liked analytical chemistry in my senior year. And that was actually what got me my first job in a lab. It was just a lab job, but it was, I think looking back, it was something that I think set me up for a lot of what I'm doing now in terms of how you critically think about a lot of the things that are going on around us. So after that, I did know that I wanted to go back to med school, but I was just burnt out after undergrad, just being honest. So I was like, I need a break. So I was like, I'm gonna go work, make some money before I go to med school. And those were still some of the best decisions of my life. I really enjoyed the time off. I think you get to grow. Sometimes when you're kind of in the real world, working, interacting with people. And then I went to medical school. I went to medical school at UNC. And then towards the end of my time at UNC, realized that the tech field was really going to start impacting a lot of what we do. We had seen it happen in the banking sector for any of the finance people. We had seen it happen in supply chain, for any of the analytics people. So almost every other industry, tech was getting into it, but it hadn't yet touched healthcare. So I kind of have a little bit of foresight. I didn't really know, but I was like, I think I need to learn something about tech. That was just the nudge that I had. And so I started asking questions. I got curious, and there was a resident at that time that I had met at a barbershop. And he told me that, he was about to do a fellowship in informatics. And I was like, what's that? I'd never heard of it. So again, I got curious and I just asked him more about it. And he started telling me what that was. And I was like, I think that's maybe what I want to do. Just kind of latching on to that idea that this is something that's interesting. This is something that could maybe help solve some of the problems that I had seen just while being a student in med school. And so I took a risk, and I was like, I'm gonna try this thing, and I'm going to see if it works out. Didn't know if it was gonna work out. It was a huge risk. And again, shout out to my wife, who was very supportive, because this is, again, at the end of med school, you're in tons and tons of debt, and you're like, what, you're gonna go do something else? What are you crazy? But I took that risk, and a lot of what I'm doing now was because of that risk. So I just want to encourage you all, if there's something that you're curious about, that you're like, maybe this is something that I want to do, don't let any fear keep you from pursuing that. That's my first lesson for today. Now, as you can see at the bottom there, those are all the things, all the degrees that we've gotten, and then I have a little arrow going there. It says North Carolina Children's. So I want to tell you very quickly about North Carolina Children's. So this is something that doesn't exist quite yet. It's an idea right now. But NC Children's is in the year 2033. is supposed to be a children's hospital that's the state of North Carolina is planning to build. It's going to be about 100+ acre campus in the Triangle, about 500 bed hospital with a surgical center, a medical office space, behavioral health hospital. But right now, this thing is just an idea. But this is where I think that we're going to go. And I'm going to make one more prediction. And again, for those who were at the round table when we were talking earlier, I told you guys I think my wife is the star of this show. And I'm really glad that she's here because I think she's going to be the CEO of North Carolina Children's Hospital. Who agrees with me? Now, she doesn't believe that yet. She probably doesn't believe that yet, but I already know that she has all the skills that it takes to kind of be someone that runs a hospital. Now, I'm going to keep going, but we'll come back to that and why I just did that. So you've heard about really what we do in our day jobs. So she's a pediatrician by training. We have a 2-year-old, and so by day we're really just doing all the stuff that we just talked about. And then for me, by night, I'm helping build some of these ventures. So Nanba Health is a startup that I'm helping support. Seek Up AI Academy is another one. The goal is just to teach young folks, middle schoolers, high schoolers about AI. So there were some folks in here that were talking about computer science. Really what I would encourage you all to do is just start teaching the next generation. Just start paying it forward. Just start giving back now. Because everything that you do now is going to only help catapult you into the future. And then you also heard about the AfriMed QA Consortium. So I'm Nigerian, and I got very interested in how AI will or will not work in Africa. Because, and I'll come to this in a second, because right now a lot of these companies are pushing these technologies and they're telling you that it's the best thing since sliced bread. Or it's like the best thing in the world. But no one really is testing the tools, like we were just talking about before we started talking. And so I got really interested in, is this actually going to work for people that they haven't trained these models on? And that was what started the whole AfriMed QA Consortium. Now, I mentioned that these are some of the other courses that I've taught at Science and Math. I'm just going to skip over these. But I have these up to just show you that it's never too early to start learning some of these things now. You know, if you have younger siblings, the earlier that you start exposing them to certain things, the easier it is that when they see it the next time, that it'll be easier for them. So that's another thing that I just want to advocate for you guys. Just start early. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to, worry about doing everything perfectly. Just start learning one thing at a time, and before you know it, you'll be able to master whatever it is that you want to do. All right, I'm gonna skip to my first quote, and this was something that I got from Dr. Lathan, who had given this talk about 4 or 5 years ago. But I'm gonna read this quote, and there's a couple of quotes that are scattered through this talk, and this one says, let me just read it from here. Yet, in spite of these spectacular strides in science and technology, and still unlimited ones to come, something basic is missing. There's a sort of poverty of the spirit which stands in glaring contrast to our scientific and technological abundance. The richer we have become materially, the poorer we have become morally and spiritually. We have learned to fly the air like birds and swim the sea like fish, but we have not learned the simple art of living together as brothers. Now, this quote was from Dr. King in 1964, when he was given the Nobel lecture in Norway. This is from 1964. But this sounds very much like the same things that are still going on today. Now, what I want you guys to think about is, why is that? All right, so when you go home tonight, think about this quote, and why is it that no matter how advanced we get with all of our technological sciences, some of the simplest things, it still seems like we haven't figured out. All right, when I was preparing for this, I started kind of like just putting everything that I was gonna teach you guys. And I was like, and I came up with these outcomes, and I was like, this isn't a lecture. It's like, this is too much. We can't do this in 30 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is hopefully everything that I've put into the slides, it ended up being like 65 slides, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do that to y'all tonight. But hopefully we'll send it out, and people that are really interested can actually go through and read them. There are notes in there that you can look at if you're really, really interested. But I'm gonna try to touch on just these things, right? So these are the things that I want you guys to leave here with. That you'll be able to identify the 5 big ideas of AI. All right, you'll be able to define bias and trustworthy AI. So just what's the definition? All right, you'll be able to examine the current applications and emerging trends in the AI spaces, okay? In higher learning, but then also in any sector. And then we'll assess the ethical use cases of AI, all right? And then we'll hear about my story at the end. So if you're able to stay till the end, you'll get to hear my story. All right, so this is a slide that I didn't make. This is from the MIT Day of AI curriculum. I use this in the high school class that I teach. But I might just have someone just yell out what you see in here. And I'll repeat it for the sake of the recording. But just tell me what you see and just yell it out in the chart. So these are the 5 big ideas of AI. Perception is number 1. Good. Keep going. Representation and reasoning is 2. Okay. Okay. Learning is 3. Okay. Say that one again. Natural interaction. Good. All right. What's the next one? Societal impact. Now, the last one there is probably the most important one that your generation really will be wrestling with probably for the next 20 years. Is what is the societal impact of all this AI? All right. So if there's anything that you want to take a picture about, you can take a picture of this so that you can look back at it later. But a lot of the things that you hear about AI kind of fits into a lot of these things. All right, we'll come back to this. Now, how do you know if something is AI or not? Can someone tell me? I have some questions up there, but like just in your own words, how can you actually tell if something is AI or not? Just yell it out, huh?
There's like a peculiar, perfectness to it, if that makes any sense.
There's a perfectness to it, and it's not normal. Okay? All right. Others? It sounds robotic. Okay. Someone in the back said it feels weird. Is that right? Okay. Say again? You feel it's not right. Okay. All right. It lacks human emotion. All right. That's interesting. We'll come back to that. Uh-huh. It becomes more specialized over time. Okay. Any others? Yeah. Sometimes it's inauthentic. All right. So I want you to remember those things that you're thinking about. Now, from a technical definition, right? So think of for all the computer science people or all the data science people in the room, right? How can you tell if something is AI or not? So these are the 5 questions that we often will ask, right? That will either put it into the bucket of AI or put it outside of the bucket of AI. So does it perceive its environment? So who remembers what the first thing in the 5 big ideas of AI was? What was it? Perception, right? So this is the question that you ask. Does this thing perceive its environment? All right. Can it learn over time? Okay, so that's a question that you can ask. Does it make plans on its own? Okay. Does it interact with the environment? Is it intelligent or is it following its programming? So if you have anything that you want to figure out if it's in the AI bucket or if it's not, think about these 5 questions. I'm going to just gloss over some examples real quick. So think about those 5 questions that we just said and just yell it out. For the first one is a toaster. AI. All right. No, why? It doesn't learn over time. All right. Okay. Good. Robot dog. A robot dog. I can't say that. Someone said yeah. All right. Tell me why. Isn't it programmed to say loud? Okay, so maybe it can perceive its environment. All right, so that's one. What about the other two? The other couple questions. What were the other ones? Is it learning over time? Okay, so you have to figure out whether or not it's learning. All right, what was the third question? Does it make plans on its own? Okay, good. So again, think about all of those questions, whether or not you want to know if something is AI or not. Let's keep going. I won't go through all of them, but think of like a door that opens on its own, an automatic door. Is that AI? All right, we'll just yell it out. What about this one? A car. Is that AI? Okay. What about a face filter? Is that AI? Maybe. Okay, I hear more yeses. All right. What about a robot with a remote? Is that AI? Okay. What about a virtual assistant? Is that AI? Yes. Okay. What about a self-driving car? Is that AI? All right. So I'm not going to tell you whether or not you're wrong or right, but think about those 5 questions and then ask those questions consistently to determine whether or not it's AI. All right, we're going to talk about bias because that's what one of the ideas that we're talking about today. So actually, before I go to the definition, what is bias? Maybe someone from this side of the room. What is bias? Yeah. A skewed perspective on a situation because of what? Personal interests. Okay, good. I like that. Any other definitions? All right, I'm going to keep going for the sake of time. So just looking at the dictionary, all right, this is what it says bias is. All right, it says for the noun, prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. So that's just a regular kind of Oxford dictionary definition. This says something about statistics. Let's look at that definition. It says a systematic distortion of a statistical result due to a factor not allowed for in its derivation. So that is a statistical definition of bias. Another one, cause to or fail or show inclination or prejudice for or against someone or something. All right? So these are a couple different definitions of. Now, I'm going to ask, so if a statistician, a scientist, and maybe a sociologist, let's say they walk into a bar and you ask them to define what bias is, what do you guys think they will tell you guys? A statistician, a scientist, and a sociologist.
They would probably say an outside factor that can skew the data in a certain way.
Okay. Okay. Is that for the statistician? Okay. What about for the scientist? What about for the sociologist? They might say prejudice. Okay. Will they give you the same definition? They might not give you the same definition. All right? So bias might vary depending on who you're talking to and who you're asking, right? And so even how we define bias is contextual. Does that make sense? Everyone, does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So this is important when you start thinking about AI and how we define certain things. But I'm going to gloss over that and we'll keep going. But remember that thought. So these are papers. Anyone read journal articles? Raise your hand if you read some journal articles. All right, what articles do you read? Just name a journal. It's okay if you don't remember. Anyone? Yeah. Just yell it out. Wall Street Journal? Okay, yeah. And someone raise their hand over there. Say again? ProQuest journals. Okay. Any others? Journal of Economics. Okay. All right. Any others? So I will encourage you. I know you guys are like in undergrad and you're like, I don't know about these things. But learn what's going on at least in the academic side of the world, right? This is like, so journals are like the current event news of the academic world. So I encourage you to, at some point, even if it's just one, find a journal and just read like an article. These are some examples of what they look like. So some of the things that I have here were from the Nature Medicine Journal. There's a new journal called the New England Journal of Medicine AI. I won't have time to go through this, but I'm going to leave it in the slides. You can go back and look at it later. All right, we're going to define trustworthy AI real quick, and it's almost 7 o'clock, so I'm going to fast forward. Like I said, we're not going to get through all of this, but I want to at least hit the highlights for you. So the second thing that we're going to do is define trustworthy AI. So if someone was to say, what is trustworthy AI, what would you... So I know someone in the back had said, like, it just doesn't feel right, right? Or you can tell that it's not. So if you're going to define trustworthy AI, what would you say trustworthy AI is? Ethical. Okay, good. Let's hear some more. Okay. I hear ethical. What else? AI you can trust, huh? Uses relevant, up-to-date information. I like that. Why did you say that? Yeah. Don't tell me stuff from like 1970. That's not current. That doesn't apply to me, right? So, good. Important point. Any others? Yeah? Good. Yeah. Unbiased output. Good. So we just talked about what bias is. Now we're talking about, is it trustworthy? You want to make sure that it's unbiased. I like that. Okay. Someone said something else? Yeah? It doesn't use or store your data without you asking. What's that called? Yeah, permission. Like it's not like stealing your stuff and doing stuff with it without your permission, right? So privacy is important for you to be able to trust it, right? Good. All right, so I'm gonna go through this, and we won't watch the video, like I said. You guys can maybe go back and just watch. This is a YouTube video. You can go back and watch it. But the 5 things that they talk about when they think about trustworthy AI are the following. It is explainable. So I can look at it and I can tell you what it's doing. I can explain what's going on in it. It is fair. So someone said that. So fairness. It is transparent. What does that mean when I say that it's transparent? There's transparency in it. You can cite its sources. Tell me more. Give me more. It's clear what it's doing. So kind of similar to explainability, but you can follow the logic. You can be like, okay, it did this, it did this, it did this because it got it. So anyone ever had like those math teachers that would be like, you gotta show your work. You gotta show your work. If you don't show your work, it's wrong, right? Right? This is the same thing. The AI has to be able to show its work, because if you don't show its work, you don't know what it's doing. You don't know what's going on in there, right? All right. Robustness, privacy. When they talk about robustness here, it's really just saying that it cannot be influenced. So this is really a security term, is that I can't basically trick it to do something that it's not supposed to do. So that's a security term. But you can watch that video. I'm not going to play it. I'm going to just keep going.
About a year ago.
All right, so next quote that I have. All right, so this is another quote. So remember the first quote that we talked about. This is the next one. I'm going to read it. I'm not worried about machines taking over the world. I'm worried about groupthink, insularity, and arrogance in the AI community. The people creating the technology are a big part of the system. If many are actively excluded from its creation, this technology will benefit a few while harming a great many. So this is from Dr. Timnit. She's actually an engineer, a computer science engineer. She worked at Google. Then she left. It was a big hoopla in the news. But she was one of the people that was trying to warn us back in what year was that? Probably 2017, 2018. It's okay, we gotta watch out for what's going on with all of this technology. Some of it might be good, some of it might be bad. She was kind of giving a warning, and it was a big deal back then, still is, and she still does a lot of advocacy for keeping in check a lot of the tech companies. All right, so we've done the first two. We can take a break, say, woo! Thank you. All right, so that'll get some of your blood flowing. I'm gonna just keep going because I think I only have about 15 minutes left. Is that right? A little less. All right. So she's going to keep me on track. So I'm going to just click through the next things, and I'll just speed through some of this. But where are we today? Where are we today in terms of the world of AI? So when I gave a talk like this last summer. And back then, this isn't animated. But back then, you can see there was a White House. What do they call it? What does that say up there? Executive order. Thank you. I can't think of words. There's a White House executive order that talked about what the U.S. wants to do with AI. I would encourage you, if you ever are really interested, you can read some of these things that are going on. All right, let me go back and click through this. Okay, now that I clicked the link, it's getting stuck on me. But either way, I want to just mention the technologies that we have today. So anyone heard of Conmigo? Maybe raise your hand if you've heard of that. Conmigo, Khan Academy. Yeah, so they're trying to, this is not showing, so let me see if I can get it back. But there's another one that I actually use called Flexi, which is supposed to be an Ask It Anything, and you can use it in class. And it can kind of be like a co-pilot while you're in class. Thank you. I know what it's like to be an AV person, so we love. So you may not always know what the student is asking when you're doing it. So I just want to mention some of these is that as they roll out these tools, you always want to think about when we're using this, maybe in the classroom or for yourself, what is it that I'm gaining? What is it that I'm losing when you use some of these tools? All right, for the sake of time, I'm just going to fast forward, but this is another kind of mentor of mine. He's one of the OGs in the world of health informatics. He's out in Oregon. He's on the West Coast. But he writes some blogs that are pretty interesting. And so for anyone that really wants to go deeper, you can read one of his takes on what the implications of AI. In this case, it's talking about the health professions and the biomedical professions. But if you want to read what some old gurus are thinking about, you can read some of his writings. I'll just show this because this shows the trajectory of a lot of these AI tools in the last 4 or 5 years. And what I really want to highlight here, and I'm going to try to draw your attention to it. Do you see my cursor? No. Let me just come this way. It is here. So between December 2022 and December 2023, right? And again, this is just a multiple choice exam, but this was a huge jump. And what that huge jump shows is that at least on a multiple choice exam, right, they were able to increase their performance from about 50%. So basically, the AI was failing the exam to about almost 86%. And that happened within the span of a year. So now, this is in the context of USMLE. For anyone that's like pre-med, USMLE is a board exam that you take when you're in med school. But so for med students, to go from like 50% to like 80%, it might take them like 2 to 3 years before they learn everything that they need to do. Now, these technologies, this AI was able to do that within like months, within about 3 months, right? So we want to be, again, just cognizant of the pace of the technology, of the change of technology. And I mean, this stuff is even old now, but I mentioned this when you think about just the pace of change and how sometimes we need to just make sure that we're keeping ourselves aware of how fast the technology is changing, all right? I'm going to skip this, but for anyone that's a statistician or that likes statistics, we can talk maybe more about this. So maybe some of the teachers, we can talk a little bit more about this. But anyone know what kind of plot this is? Maybe I'll just mention what that is. What is it? And what do you use that for?
Summarizing data.
Okay, keep going. Summarizing data, right? Yeah, most plots do that. Okay, yeah. So you're kind of separating things into quartiles, all right? So I'm going to keep going just for the sake of time, but whenever you read an article, usually what I do is I just look at the pictures first. So look at all the pretty pictures, try to figure out what the pictures is, and then you can go back and start reading. But that's like a pro tip that you can start. All right, this is an important article that just came out actually this last week. So this is from some folks in Microsoft, and it talks about the illusion of the readiness of a lot of these AI tools. So I'm going to read the abstract just really quickly, and I know we're getting short on time, but it says, can everyone see it, or is it too small? It's kind of small. All right, but I'll just read it. It says, large frontier models like GPT-5. So GPT-5 just came out. Anyone know about that? You heard it when it came out? They were trying to make a big deal about it. But large frontier models like GPT-5 can now achieve top scores on medical benchmarks, but our stress tests tells a different story. Leading systems often guess correctly even when key inputs like images are removed, flip answers under trivial prompt changes, and fabricate convincing yet flawed reasoning. So what this is saying is that, okay, these things are really good at guessing. They can guess the right answer. But when you actually just change something like an image, let's say you flip an image, right? It throws it off. Or say you just make a change in the prompt, it gives you a different answer. So these are things that I want you all in here to be thinking about as you use these technologies, right? So like if I change a word here, what answer does it give me? So when we go back to, is this thing trustworthy? Think about what are these models actually good at? If actually I'm pro using the tools, but when I use them, I don't remember anything from this talk. That's what I want you guys to do. Is that when you use this tool, you're actively thinking about what is this thing good at? What is this thing a completely different answer? And if it does, can I trust it? Does that make sense? Okay. For anyone that's super interested, you can look at this. This is a technical paper, but you can look at this and go deeper a little bit. All right, one more quote. This one is about understanding AI. It says, "We are mistaken if we look to algorithms for direction. They are not guided by a core set of values so much as by a specific set of outcomes. They are utilitarian. To a hammer, everything is a nail. To an AI, everything is a computational challenge." So I want you to think about this quote again when you go home, is that when I go home and I ask ChatGPT, what should I tell my boyfriend if he did XYZ thing? Because some people probably do that, right? To an AI, this is a computational challenge. If you ask ChatGPT, all right, I want you to write this essay for my math test that's coming up, and I can't think of a scenario right now, but you give it a certain scenario, right? What is it actually going to do, right? What is it trained to do? What is it supposed to do? It's supposed to find an answer that is a computational challenge. It's supposed to solve your answer. It's supposed to maybe reinforce the things that you like, which we were talking about a little bit here earlier. So if these are the things that these models are supposed to do or trained to do, solve computational challenges, right? What is this thing supposed to do for me? Okay? We can get deeper a little bit later, but I want you all to start actively thinking about, okay, when I do this, what is this thing supposed to do? Is it supposed to kind of reinforce everything that I'm asking? Or maybe is it supposed to challenge it? So how many of you have ever had a roommate? All right. All right. So tell me like your worst or best horror stories about your roommate. Someone real quick. If Or just a funny story. Maybe just a funny story. If you don't want to throw your roommate under the bus. Anyone got one? Okay, they're not gonna share. Okay, maybe your sibling. Maybe not your roommate, but your sibling. What is it about your sibling that like irks you? Anyone have siblings? Okay, you got one. Thank you.
Every time my brother eats, he puts the fork in his mouth and he closes his teeth on it as he pulls it out. So it like screeches every time.
It screeches every time. So that irks you. Okay. So why does that irk you?
It's just annoying. Like open your mouth and chew.
And then what does he do when you tell him?
He just keeps doing it.
He just keeps doing it. Why?
Because he's an annoying little brother.
Because he's an annoying little brother. And that's maybe what he wants to do or he's supposed to do, right? So let's say you replace your brother with a robot brother. And then you tell him to stop doing that. What will it do?
Give me some long speech. Because that's what chat always does.
What kind of long speech? Go a little deeper there.
Kind of like a really long, emotionless speech about like why he's doing it and kind of how he doesn't want to conform to what you want to do, how he just wants to do it his own way and that type of thing. But without any real like, I don't know, emotion or recognizing how he's doing it.
Okay. Yeah. So I want you to think about when you leave here. So y'all are probably gonna go home, maybe go eat, or go back to your dorms. Maybe you not gonna talk to your roommate. I wanted you to think about human interactions and what actually makes human interactions feel real, memorable, what makes, for better or for worse, your family dynamics, what makes that a family dynamic. And then I want you to think about when you talk with ChatGPT or AI, what makes that dynamic the way it is, and compare and contrast it, right? And think about what is it that some of these tools, what is it that they're supposed to do? Are they always supposed to just do everything that I want it to do? Are they supposed to challenge me? Are they supposed to always just tell me that I'm right? Think about that in the context of uniquely human interactions, all right? That was one of our 5 big ideas. And then these interactions that we're having with computer systems. Okay? You remember that? Can you do that? You can do that? All right. I think we're at 7:15, so I'm going to stop there. I think we've done at least enough for today. We'll send out the slides. You guys can look back at it. But we'll go to Q&A, and then at the end, I actually do have a song recommendation and a poem that I want us to end on. But we'll go to Q&A. Thank you.
guys have any questions, you guys can just raise your hand and one of the honors ambassadors will pass you a mic.
Hi, I'm David, and I am a biological engineering student, sophomore from Southern Virginia. And I was just wondering, how do you feel about the massive data centers using a lot of water, and like, especially in low-income countries?
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, great question, amazing question. So I gave a talk to Duke graduate students in the spring of last year, and I actually mentioned this in that talk. In that, when you think about the things that it's gonna take to power these technologies, these data centers, we have to think about the. So, in my slides, we get to a point where I talk about what is this all gonna cost us. In a place like the US or China, they might be able to be like, okay, we'll think about that later. But in a place like Africa, one data center can probably power 10,000 homes. Like that's a legit, real like statistics. The amount of power that one data center consumes can probably power 10,000 homes. So in a place that already doesn't maybe have a good power grid, doesn't have electricity 24/7, right? You really have to think about the costs. This is like cost benefit. It's like, are we really gonna build a data center here? Or if we do, like, how's that gonna happen? Like, if you listen to the news, I think there was an NPR article also about certain parts of the U.S. where you wanna try to trace where they put in data centers, right? And who's gonna pay the costs, right? And who's gonna make the money? These are all things that no matter what major you are, whether you're a computer science major, you want to be a policy major, you want to be a lawyer, someone said that. Like, we all in this room have to be thinking about that, because you can't just, throw something up and then not think about who are the people that it might cost and down the line. So I don't have like a answer for you on that. But I think we have to think strategically about those things, and we have to be very, very engaged. And this is where also you start getting into like policy, politics, like who has the money, where are they gonna put it, right? And what's gonna happen. So it's a great question that, again, you all want to be thinking about no matter where you're from. Some of y'all are from Florida, some of y'all are from New York, some are from wherever you are. Think about where are they placing data centers. And what is it going to cost? Some of it will bring jobs, but again, at what cost? And so you always want to do that cost-benefit analysis. It's like, is this going to help the people that we want it to help, or is it only going to help, like in the quote, the few? Thank you for the question. Others? Actually, before you go, I will say, so that's like the maybe negative view. The other positive, slightly positive view that I do want to add is that data centers are also in some ways infrastructure building. All right? But again, we have to be careful with the cost benefit. It's like, okay, who's building the infrastructure? Who owns it? Who's going to be making money from it, like in 10, 20 years, and so on and so forth. But yes, ma'am, go ahead.
And I have a question about AI, because some people in some instances have claimed that AI will try to mimic humans, like with the emotions and stuff.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes lead other humans to commit suicide in
Yep.
extreme cases.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what was your view on that?
Yeah, great question. And so there actually already is a case where that's happened. There was a CNN news report about it where there was a young teenager. And this is also one of the reasons where I'm strategically teaching in high schools. Like there's a reason why I'm doing that. That's not by just, there's a reason why I'm doing that. Because, okay, I'll backtrack. Humans in general our brains probably don't fully develop, and when I say develop, I'm talking about like decision making and your frontal lobe, until you probably hit like 22, 23, 25. They're helping me out, right? 25. So most of y'all, you already know your decision making still isn't quite where it probably needs to be. Not to throw shade, but like that's just the reality. It's like the way we make decisions, right? And we probably have parents that, talk about it, or grandmas that are like, yeah, what are you doing with your life? But that's just the reality, right? At some point, you get to the point where you've had enough experience where you're like, okay, now I've made enough mistakes, I've seen enough things, I've had enough experiences where I can actually feel like I'm making good decisions in life. But that doesn't happen until 25. So think of like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old maybe who's, talking to ChatGPT, for their entire high school, right? So my wife is a pediatrician. She comes with stories every day at home about all the stuff that goes on. Now think about that happening where no one is aware, right? You can go down like the spiral so quickly, and so when you're just having an intimate conversation with this thing that may or may not even be real yet, but they don't know that. So that is a huge risk. Now I would say that is the policy question. These are the things that we now all have to be thinking about. Is that, okay, how do we protect like young kids? Think of it like the same way they did with smoking, right? Do we need to have public service campaigns where we actually teach people about this? Do we need to have ads where we actually teach people about what are the risks and benefits of these things? But when you're in high school, y'all been there. You don't necessarily want to hear that. So it's not a new problem. I think it's a problem that we've had before. It's just how do we go about effectively educating parents, educating the vulnerable children, and the elderly as well, actually. How do we protect them? How do we protect the vulnerable populations? Because when you have tools that are these powerful, that are these convincing, right? I mean, y'all probably know people that have, TikTok face filters, right? And you're like, you don't look like that in real life. But I couldn't tell, right? That's real. That's what's happening now, right? And so again, it's what are the things that we need to do to protect people and to actually know what's real versus not real? Because that is going to be the problem of this generation, is like, how do you know what's real and not real when things are so convincing, right? That literally is the problem of, I think, y'all's generation. It's like, how are you going to tell what's real versus not real? All right, thank you for the question. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Denisha. I'm a natural resources environmental design major. And I just want to ask a little bit more about the North Carolina Children's and
Sure.
how much or to what extent do you plan to ingrain AI within the hospital? Specifically thinking about the chart they showed us where AI learned what clinical students learn in 2 years or 1 year. How do you make sure that the AI isn't taking over potential nursing jobs?
Yeah, great question. So that's my research. That's actually what my research is all about, is how do we know when this technology is going to get to the point where, okay, maybe we can start using it for this or this or this. And then what do we use it for? And who gets to use it? Do you give it to someone that is in medical school and they are still learning? Do you give it to someone that is a resident and they're still maybe getting their feet? Do you give it to attendants, right? What is it actually good for? What is it useful for? And then also, how long do they use it for, right? We were having a conversation earlier today about like Google Maps, for example. So there's another teacher that was like, their grandparents has a really good sense of direction in their town. She, on the other hand, doesn't, right? Because she just uses like the app. And so, in a generation, there's between her grandma and her, she's kind of lost a little bit of that, maybe what was natural to her grandparents, where she had a great sense of direction, right? Now, we need to think about this even more seriously when it comes to AI, is that when you outsource, because this is really what it is, when you outsource your critical thinking to a tool, what do you lose? And do you want to lose that? Right? So that's part of the question that you're asking, is that, one, who gets to use the tool? How long do they use the tool for? Do we just use it to learn and then we take it away so that you don't lose that critical thinking skills? So think of like a surgeon that maybe like they get trained as a surgeon, and then there's a robot surgery. There's a robot that can do surgery, right? Do we just let everybody start using the robot surgery and then all the surgeons lose their skills? Those are the kinds of questions that you want to start thinking about. And I am not in a position of authority quite yet, but maybe one day I will be there to at least be able to be at the table when some of these decisions are happening. That's actually what I want to do in like 10, 20 years. Maybe like work for the FDA and be able to like stamp a tool and be like, okay, we can use this for this. We don't use it for this. It's bad for this. That's like one of my long-term goals. Yeah. Thank you for the question. That was our last question. Well, thank you all. This was great. I really appreciate you coming. You can connect with us and follow up on some of the work that we're doing. And hopefully, I think your next lecture series is also someone that's doing something in healthcare. So carry some of this into that next lecture series as well. Thank you all for having me.